Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN The Hub's Fantasy Basketball Waiver Wire Show every Thursday at 4:45 p.m. Eastern, 1:45 p.m. Pacific. We are here to give you all of your needs in not giving your needs. We're going to meet your needs. What am I talking about here? It's time for Fantasy Basketball Waiver Wire, and I'm here as always with Casey Vlad to the Bone Scheinbold and Ross the Boss.
Hey, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk NBA Waiver Wire. Yay, Waiver Wire. With you, cowboy. Wow, it's been a great week of NBA basketball. Every guy's caught up a couple nights ago. The Clippers were down by 35 points. Yeah, Casey, 35 points. And guess what happened? The Washington Wizards gave up that lead, and they lost the game. Thoughts? Go.
Casey, I turn it to you.
Look, I'm a Maryland Terrapins fan, as you can see from the shirt here. So I'm used to watching those large leads get blown late in games. They were just up on Rutgers by 12. They were up on, I think, Iowa a couple weeks ago by a few with they were up against one team, a minute left. They were up 6 points and they ended up blowing it. So that doesn't surprise me. That's like.
But I do have to ask this. I mean, does it feel to you like this kind of thing happens a lot more now than it used to? I don't know if I'm right about that, but that's the feel I have.
35 points up in a basketball game in the NBA level, that's a lot of points to try to come back to. And the Clippers, who are not a good team, their two stars are not on the playing floor. For them to come back with Luke Canard and your boy Coffee, it's not really the star power they have right now to come back with that type of win. And they did it. The Suns have won 8 in a row. They're the hottest team in the NBA right now. If I had to pick a team to make the NBA Finals, they'll be one of them. The other team I'll pick to be in the NBA Finals, Dan, I'm going to give you props, is the Cleveland Cavaliers. They really do have the Twin Towers in Allen and Mobley. Mobley is going to be the Rookie of the Year. There's no way he's not. He's having an unbelievable year. And even without Sexton, they are playing unbelievable basketball. They won 3 in a row. Garland's going to be all pro. He's that good. I mean, Dan, you live in Cleveland. What's your thoughts on the Cavs?
Okay, so first of all, I want to accept credit for just having been born here because I didn't do anything else to make them good. But it is very exciting. This is the most exciting team that we've seen in a long time. And I say that with, of course, the caveat that we've watched LeBron. So obviously it was incredibly exciting. But this team's having a lot more fun than those teams had. There was so much pressure on LeBron's back and everybody around him. These guys are just having fun.
I agree. Kevin Love is playing 20 minutes a game, and he's averaging almost 18 points a game.
He's happier, you know.
So here's my question for you, Dan, because I know you're obviously a LeBron fan. You were a huge LeBron fan, then lost faith in him when he went to Miami. Then he came back, and you're a LeBron fan again. But what do you think of the narrative that LeBron actually damages teams because of his way of taking over roster construction or the roster itself, whereas now the Cavs are this young and exciting, more cohesive team playing together?
Look, when you add LeBron, it's 4 steps forward, 1 step back. It's still completely worth it all the time. But there is that 1 step back. It brings a lot of stress to it. Now, you know, fortunately, from a fantasy basketball standpoint, you don't need to worry about it too much. LeBron's going to bring great value, although he is overdrafted, because he's not going to be in the top 5, very rarely. He's not even likely to be in the top 10 most of the time. He's a great player, but his free throw percentage brings it down. His turnovers bring it down. So, but from a real NBA standpoint, LeBron's his own thing. He's like his own planet. And if you have a chance to be on that planet, you want to be on it. I totally understand. But there's a great pleasure in being in a situation where we are legitimate contenders without that kind of circus and without that pull from one player.
No, they're playing unbelievable basketball, and even their bench is good in Cleveland. And it's a whole different mindset now. And they're the 3 seed, and people even pick them to be in the playoffs this year.
Well, and the thing is, we lost Sexton and Rubio, and we're still doing it.
Yeah,
you know, it's pretty impressive.
You know, I just hope the trade deadline is coming up. Then we'll talk about waiver wire. The trade deadline's February 10th. I just hope they don't do a bunch of stupid trades and get.
Oh, I agree. Well, I mean, why mess with it?
That's what I think. Don't mess with the team that's playing well. Don't bring in new players that are going to mess up the rotation. You know, they did bring in a great veteran, you know, from the Lakers or Clippers, whoever he was playing for. But they have a good little nucleus, and they should just keep it up. They have a good team right now, and I'd be ashamed if Cleveland brought in some veterans just to have them. I don't know why, but
I completely agree. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I mean, they have Rondo, and I think Rondo's a good guy to just show the rookies like.
You could maybe bring in one. I don't like mixing up the chemistry a lot when it's going on. But guys, guess what? I think people tuned into us to find out about fantasy basketball, and I should say this. We're getting down to the wire here. There's not that many weeks left in the regular season. So I say that it's every week that we're on Thursdays every week, 4:45 p.m. Eastern and 1:45 Pacific, but not for long. There's only 4 or 5 weeks left of this, guys, and you're down to the wire. So pay attention because this is the time. This is crunch time. Don't take your foot off the gas. This is your chance. So let's get into guards. Remember, we are 60% and under rostership on Yahoo. That is our criteria for what is useful for pickups. We could tell you to pick up somebody who's 92% owned, but that's not helping you much. So, Casey, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's a top guard that you would want to see picked up?
Well,
and don't be afraid to repeat, by the way. We're recommending the best players. It doesn't matter whether we've said them before or not.
And certainly it's somebody we've mentioned a few times before, certainly last week. I think almost anybody in Chicago's backcourt right now is worth owning, the ones that are under 60%, especially, not Alex Caruso, obviously, because Grayson Allen struck again there, and he's out for 6 to 8 weeks, I think they said. The dirtiest player in basketball. He carried it from Duke to the pros.
The Newman of the NBA.
But this kid, Ayo Dosunmu, is just playing out of his mind, and he's playing 37 minutes a game in the last 14 days on average, that's insane for somebody who was preseason not even ranked in the top 350. Like, this was an unknown guy. The last 2 weeks in his averages, he's ranked in the top 50 right now. He's playing great. He's shooting almost 54% from the field. He doesn't shoot free throws that well, but he's only taken, it looks like, not a tremendous amount. Hits threes, scores points, gets assists, even chips in on rebounds. That would be my top point guard pickup or guard pickup coming into this week.
Okay, Ross, I'm going to turn over to you in a second, but I'm going to ask, I know I'm pushing this guy a lot, but Patty Mills still showing great value. Are your guys that you just said, Casey, guys you pick up over Patty Mills? 51%. 32 minutes a game still in the last 2 weeks.
I would, only because I still worry about the Kyrie Irving factor and whether that will eventually chip into Patty Mills' effectiveness. I know we talked about that a little bit last week. And trust me, I'm not saying like these guys are A and Patty Mills is all the way down here. You're talking the top 3 or 4 guys overall. And if you can only get one of them, Patty Mills is not a bad one to get. So I'm not saying they're better, but those are the guys I would look for right now. Because with Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and when Durant comes back, there's a lot of scorers on the floor that can take away from, other than assists, from Patty Mills' effectiveness.
Yeah, although James Harden's saying he's unhappy in Brooklyn. I heard some reports that I know he doesn't realize. Like, James, you're there. That's why you're unhappy.
The only constant in all 3 of those situations.
The Sixers are trying to make a play for him because they're trying to put Ben Simmons in the mix.
Right.
I think James just has to take a beat and just not do anything and just play basketball and stop talking. He wants to leave. But that's Ross the Boss talking. He can do anything he wants. If he plays it right, he can make $60 million next year just in the NBA if he wants. But who knows if he wants.
Seems like the kind of thing you want to play the right way. Ross, who would you pick up from guard play?
This is a streaker. You got to watch the playing time. You got to watch, who's playing and how much playing time he gets. But Duncan Robinson, the past 2 games, has been getting over 20 points a game. That's 2 in a row. He's done that. He's been shooting a lot more confident from the 3-point line. He's been hitting a lot of threes the past 2 games. If you need a streaker at the guard position, I think he's one of the hottest, just not guys under 60%, but over 60%. He's been destroying the ball. So Duncan Robinson in the guard position for me this week is a great pickup. Okay, just to be clear, in baseball, you destroy the ball. Just be careful, Ross. No one's destroying the ball in basketball. But here's a guy that I think is similar to Robinson, but I like his upside more. This is another guy I talk about all the time, but I'm not going to stop because Who is it?
it's Justin Holiday. Because if people are not picking up these players enough, I have to keep saying it. My job is to tell you who are the players to pick up to win. Patty Mills and Justin Holiday are two of my absolute top pickups, and they're still under 60% rostered.
Yeah,
a good amount. Justin Holiday only 42% owned, and in the last 2 weeks, the 33rd best player in Yahoo.
Wow.
Anybody else to add here, guys?
Our cover guy is Luke Canard. He's been averaging the past 2 weeks, 15 points a game, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. He's been playing really well. That big comeback was a big part of him doing. He was hitting threes. When he's on, they give him like 30 minutes a game. He'll average close to 20 points a game. Luke Kennard's a good pickup. The Clippers, Paul George isn't coming back anytime soon. So there you go. Luke Kennard will probably.
But let me ask this, though, Ross, as a Clippers fan. I hear you. When Canard is hot, you want to play him. And with Paul George out for a long time, it could go for a long time. Do you think, though, he's also the kind of guy who's going to flame out, but still is worth owning right now while he's hot?
He could be a streaker. That's a good point. But I've been such a disappointing season for Terrence Mann. I liked him to start the season. He's not been consistent. I had him on my fantasy team for a little bit. I just waived him. There's no value there anymore. He doesn't play well enough every game to keep him on my team. I think one of the few players to pick up on the Clippers team, even Reggie Jackson, I wouldn't have my team anymore. His numbers have gone down tremendously. Duncan Robinson. Luke Kennard is, for me on the Clippers, is one of the only players that is that consistently scores, rebounds, and even gets a few assists every game that I would want on my roster. Everybody else in the Clippers, I really don't want.
All right, I'm going to mention one other guy. Just, remember, I always talk about how if you need a category, go looking for it. So we've already mentioned some three-point shooters. Of course, I understand the guys we've mentioned, including Duncan Robinson, are great three-point shooters. But Pat Kanatan is a guy who's hanging around. I would certainly not mind having him on my roster. He's only 24% rostered, but he plays in a great team and he hits threes and he shoots the ball pretty well. So you could do a lot worse than that. Kobe White still only 56% rostered.
But Zach LaVine's back. His numbers have gone down ever since Zach's been back. I'm not on the bandwagon for Kobe White anymore, just because Zach LaVine's back, but that can change week by week. You got to analyze that. And
also if you see, here's the other thing: if you look at his usage, even if you say, well, Zach LaVine's back, so now his usage is going to be worse and he's going to go way down. Injuries happen all the time.
I know, I get it.
So I still think I'd hold on to him on the back end of your roster. I really would.
Yeah, and then the other guy I brought up, and I watched Laker games because they live in Los Angeles, is Malik Monk. He's one of the few Lakers that consistently shoots the three-pointer every game and actually makes three-pointers. Westbrook, you can't depend on him at all.
I just love that name.
You can't depend on Westbrook at all. And LeBron's been shooting the three really well. LeBron, I got to give him some props. He's been shooting the three, and he's been making them. I don't know the stats exactly, but he's been looking good shooting threes. But Malik Monk for the Lakers, he's been lights out. He's been shooting the ball unbelievable the past 2 weeks.
Okay, I'm getting ready to move on to forwards. The last call, guys. Anybody in terms of guards? Okay, we're going to move on to forwards. Ross, I'm going to give you the first crack at it. As many as you want.
I've mentioned his name before, and I know you have a bad taste in his mouth, but, Rudy Gobert is not playing. He's hurt. He was in street clothes yesterday. And Hassan Whiteside has been averaging 13 points, I think, and 11 rebounds the past 2 weeks. He just got off the protocol list, and he's been playing really good basketball. With Gobert out, he's been seeing a lot of time. So if you need a streak, he's probably a streaker, but you never know. He's been playing really well, so I would probably just keep him on my roster if I could. But Whiteside right now, especially with Gobert out, is an unbelievable pickup. So I suggest you do it now before somebody else picks him up.
All right, well, this may surprise you, but I completely agree, especially for like this week. 1 week makes a big difference in this. If you pick up Hassan Whiteside this week, he could put up some big time numbers, win you a week. I'm playing Ross the Boss this week. Maybe I should do it if he's not owned.
Don't pick him up.
Okay, all right.
No, don't do it.
Then I didn't say anything. Casey, why don't you jump in while I go pick up Hassan Whiteside?
Yeah, you do that. I'm going to name 2 players, but then I want to switch gears for 1 second when I'm done, because one of the players I'm going to name, I just received an offer for in a trade from somebody in our league, and I want you guys to argue both sides of the trade for me so I can make a decision on what I'm going to do. So the first guy I'm going to mention is Nicholas Batum. We've talked about him, I think, pretty regularly. The Clippers are without their 2 best players. He's only playing 24 to 25 minutes per night the last couple of weeks. But even in that time, he's shooting 54% and has hit almost as many threes as Duncan Robinson in the same period of time. So it's a guy who's consistently knows his role, doesn't try to do more than he's capable of doing, and does what he does very well. So he can help you along the way. The second one is Otto Porter Jr. in Golden State. Golden State is playing inspired basketball and has been all season. In the last 2 weeks, he's the 23rd ranked player in Yahoo. He's playing only 22 minutes a game and putting up enough value to be the 23rd ranked player in Yahoo, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. He hasn't played exceptionally more games because I'm doing it under total production. It's not like he's played 10 games to everybody else's 7 or 8. He's played 7 and other people have played 8 or 7 or 8 themselves, and he's ranking that well. So those would be the 2 I would recommend kind of picking up. I just received, and Dan, I don't know who Brady is in our league. He's
the kid. We've had him on our show.
He's one of the best fantasy players in the country.
There you go. Well, Brady, the kid, just made a very smart offer to me, and I want you guys to argue both sides. So, Dan, you take Casey, take the trade. Ross, you take Casey, no way.
Okay.
All right. So,
sure. Go.
Brady is trying to get Jarrett Allen from me. Jarrett Allen is the center, obviously, for the Cleveland Cavaliers, who plays with Mobley in that 2 tall trees back front court of theirs. And he's offering me Bobby Portis of Milwaukee, and he's offering me I think it's it's Dort. Lugens, is that how you pronounce his first name?
Lugens Dort. Didn't he go to Arizona State?
That's why I brought him up.
He's Canadian, actually, too.
So it's based on the way they're performing right now, it's a pretty fair trade, because in the last 2 weeks, both of them outrank Jarrett Allen. But is that sustainable? So my question for you is, Dan, why should I take Bobby Portis and Lugens Dort for Jarrett Allen?
All right, Ross, do you want to go first or do you want me to?
You go first.
Okay, I'm going to go first. My answer may surprise you, okay? The reason you should take this trade is if you like Brady a lot and you want to give it to him. Otherwise, you shouldn't.
I am leaning against it pretty strongly, by the way.
Okay, I mean it's a smart offer. It's a
smart trade offer because they're both performing really well.
Well, here's why. I mean, Bobby Portis, he's the kind of guy who does actually tend to outperform what people's perceived value of him is, but it's never going to get that high. And so I'm sorry. I know I'm supposed to argue for. But I couldn't. I was just like, I can't lie to the people. I mean,
I knew I was putting you in the tougher spot.
So, but Ross, you can give your reasons why not to. My reason too is to please Brady.
Yeah, I think Dort, I would waive. I haven't been following his stats the past couple of weeks, but Dort's somebody that's on a lot of waiver wires anyway.
He's only 63% owned.
Yeah, I mean, again, he went to Arizona State. I know that. He plays in Oklahoma City. I know that, but he's just not consistent enough for me to keep on my roster. There's a lot better players I like. So basically, it's Allen for Portis, and if I had to pick one, I would pick Allen just because he is. I just think he's getting the ball more. He gets 3 more. He just gets the ball more. He's more involved in the offense than Portis does. Portis is somebody that's that guy's a scrapper. I mean, he really is. I mean, he gets offensive rebounds. He's having a great year. This is his best year. But if I had to pick between Allen and Portis, I would pick Allen, but that's me. I don't think it's a bad offer, but I don't think Dort has any value at all in this trade.
Okay, very good. Sorry, that was my assessment as well. So, Brady, I apologize. It was a smart offer, but I had to reject it. I rejected an offer he gave me a few days ago for Steph Curry, and he was offering me Sabonis and something else for Steph Curry. So,
but see, that's also a smart deal. Listen, Casey and I love 2-for-1 deals. Ross, I don't know how you feel about them, but anytime you're getting the top player and you can add somebody off the wire, especially in a league like in basketball where there's value on the wire all the time, you do it. So,
I agree. I think it's an interesting offer. Do
you think Bobby Portis is related to Clinton Portis?
No. I think at least if you go back far enough,
Miami.
Maybe.
Denver Bronco, the University of Miami prodigy.
Sheriff. Okay, well, let's get back to forwards. This all started with Otto Porter. And
then I linked it to Bobby Portis. It was just name association.
But I'm going to say another Golden State player, which is Kavon Looney, has been playing really well. He's putting up some really good value. So
I have him listed under my centers.
I would scoop him up. We mentioned Chuma Okeke before. The guy's putting up great value. These are guys that you can plug in. You can get them for cheap. Another guy that I really like is Brandon Clark. And Brandon Clark, I may like the most of those three that I just mentioned because I think he's the most likely to keep his long-term value. Ross, I turn it over to you.
Devin Vessel. I don't like San Antonio players, but Devin Vessel has been playing a lot of playing time. He's been averaging like 13 points a game and 5 rebounds the past 2 weeks. Again, I don't love the Spurs that much just because he just does weird stuff with playing time. Popovich does that all the time with his players. But Vessel, if you need a forward and he's going to help you in rebounds and points and even other categories, it's not a bad pickup. So if you're stuck, go pick him up.
All right. Anybody else to add, Ross? I expected you to have like a laundry list, but you just had one. Ran out of steam.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to saving a few people that are both forwards and centers, so I'm trying to save them.
Oh, okay. Saving for the center position. Not bad.
Yeah, but
not a bad idea.
They can play both. So let's go to the centers. I can do more forwards.
I mean, the guy who's been performing the best over the past couple of weeks, and we didn't name him, is Amir Coffee. I know we talked about him before.
He needs to be mentioned for sure.
But he's still only 35% owned. The guy's like the top 20 value of the last month.
16th player overall over the last 2 weeks.
It's hard for me to pick him up.
It is, but I mean, with Kawhi and Paul George out for so long, it's not like there's any risk of him losing value unless he just starts playing terribly in the next 2 to 4 weeks.
I like Canard better, but if you get Coffee, if you need somebody else, Coffee's is not at the top of my list, but it's not a bad pickup.
I think I might pick him up before Whiteside. I'm like eyeing these different pickups, but I got to figure out how to drop. All right, guys, let's move to center for now. We know center is the most limited position, but usually you only need one of them, so you can just find a couple, and that's what works. I will start with you, Ross. You're holding people in reserve. We don't want to steal them from you.
I'm just stealing. No, we all work together. It's not a big deal. I mean, I've been saying this guy for a while, Trey Lyles of Detroit Pistons. Past 2 weeks, 15 points, 6 rebounds a game. He's been playing around 25 minutes a game. His shooting percentage is really good too. I mean, he's somebody that plays in the Detroit rotation. The only thing that happens in Detroit is they get blown out and they end up doing some crazy stuff with their rotations and taking players and benching them. I mean, it's a lot of frustration sometimes with the Pistons, but as you know, in the center position, sometimes it's a little scarce. So I suggest if you need a center, Trey Lyles is not a bad person to pick up.
Case, who do you got at center?
At center, I have Maxi Kleber. We always talk about him. I'm a
good old Maxi Kleber. Threes and blocks.
Got to say I'm a fan of that guy. I like, look, Okongwu, is that his name in Atlanta? He's still doing pretty well. I talked about him last week and said he's more of a streaker. I think he still is. 15 blocks in 14 days. Yeah, wow. That's pretty impressive. So that's another guy I would put on the list, even if he only plays for 2 weeks. If he can help you win in 2 categories in the next 2 weeks, that's super valuable going into the playoffs if you have somebody that you're waiting to get healthy.
Totally agreed. One other guy that I'll mention, and he is a deep dive sort of name. I expect him to just be, as we call him on these shows, a streaker. We understand the distinction, but we've decided to go with it. I also just really like his name, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, on OKC.
University of Villanova. I know him very well.
And small forward, power forward, and center eligibility, probably most useful at center. He's not going to wow you with any of his numbers. And actually his ranking could be a lot higher if he wasn't shooting 34% from the field. But you could do a lot worse than him. I could see picking him up. Another guy, and oh my God, I have no idea how to pronounce his name. This is going to be embarrassing, but I'm going to say it anyway.
I have no idea. Is it like
Nemanja.
Oh,
you know
that's
this
not
guy's
who I was
name?
thinking of, but yeah, he's been playing well. You're right.
I want to make a point about him, though. I'm actually not telling you to pick him up. I'm actually telling you to look at the numbers and recognize this is a guy I probably would shy away from picking up because of his minutes and because of his ranking being elevated by free throw shooting. It's just not that valuable to you. So over the last 2 weeks, he's the 113th ranked overall player. That's the kind of thing that gets you on my radar to take a look at. But his numbers just don't add up. I'd probably rather go with a guy like Bismack Biyombo, who he has a lower ranking and he has terrible free throw shooting actually, but his field goal percentage is great and he's getting a lot of rebounds and he gets block shots. And
he's getting a lot of minutes too. Look at his minutes. He's been averaging almost 30 minutes a game, 13 points, 9 rebounds the past 2 weeks. For the center position, if you need somebody, it's not a bad one, but you said his free throws percentage isn't that good, so maybe it's not that
It's true, but remember, we do this on Thursdays partly for a reason. You're partway through the week. You could look at it and be like, I'm way behind in free throws anyway. Let me pick up this guy and pick up some rebounds or pick up some field goal percentage. Know your categories.
What do you guys think about Uncle Jeff? Jeff Green there on the Denver Nuggets. Small forward, power forward, center. I have no idea. He's got to be I feel like was playing when I was in college.
36.
But the last 2 weeks, he's the 59th ranked player playing 28 minutes.
You saw the Nuggets signed DeMarcus Cousins too recently too.
Boogie.
They signed Boogie, and he's only playing like 11 minutes a game. But I see Green on a lot of waiver wires, but
so do I.
You're right. I don't know. I don't bring his name up.
But at the same point, I wonder why he's still out there, but I'm not biting the bullet to pick it up, or I'm not like running to it. So what does that mean other than, is he just not a player you get excited about, or you don't find him to be a difference maker? I don't know. I might have to.
Well, I have a theory on this.
Do you know a therapist?
I do. I know plenty. Now listen, my theory on Jeff Green and why people don't pick him up is his value is never going to go much higher than it is. So a lot of times people are looking to pick up a commodity whose value is going to go up. You can get guys at the level of Jeff Green. He's replaceable. And he's good, but he's replaceable. And I'm not talking about as an NBA player. He's a fantastic role player, and he's had a great career. But when it comes to fantasy basketball, anybody who's replaceable, I'm much more likely to leave on the wire. Even a guy like Hassan Whiteside, I'm more likely to snatch up because what if his value goes through the roof and I can just test him out for a week or a couple days? Great. Jeff Green, guys like that are going to be available. In fact, case in point, Jeff Green himself has been available for a long time.
Right.
So, anybody else to add before we wrap up this show? We've given people names to think about, and we're going to keep those coming. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below. We love to have these conversations with you. And, I remember last year there was a guy who said I helped him win his playoffs. I'll do it again. You just let me know. Anybody to add, guys?
No, we kind of went through the whole thing, and things might change. I'm sure next week we'll have some new names and some old names, but overall, I think we did a good job this week, and we gave you some really good gems to go pick up.
All right. And I agree, but I also want to encourage people. Things do change fast in the NBA. So tune in each week because you're going to get different updates each week. We'll try to keep you up to speed about who to snatch up when and to stay ahead of the curve. Thank you so much for watching.
And breaking news. Ooh. LeBron James is questionable for tonight. Ooh. Questionable.
All right.
Against the Sixers.
All right. I'll take him out of my daily pick situations of any kind.
I just did.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. We will keep you up to date. Next week, we'll be here same time. That's Thursdays, 4:45 p.m. Eastern, 1:45 p.m. Pacific. Thank you for being with us. And thank you, Casey. Thank you, Ross. We will see you next week.
Ever since I've been doing these commercials for Killcliff, my Tinder account has been blowing up, dog. Ooh, who's this horny young fella sliding into friend is the M's. Mr. Castle Master. How about that? Kill Cliff Octane CBD. The Killer Cliffsicle. All the benefits of caffeine smooth over with CBD.